Springbok squad has been named for the Rugby World Cup 2023, folks, and I don't want to say shocking, but pretty interesting in terms of the number of guys who are out of the squad. Some big old names, but we will get to them in a second. We'll go through the squad, what are the upcoming fixtures, the ins and outs, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. Only two specialist hookers in Marx and Mbonambi, remembering that Duane Vermeulen, who is kind of these days a loose forward, initially made his way into the game as a hooker, so he is, I guess, that third choice option. And not on the board are 8 guys who have been kind of named in the travelling party, who won't be with the squad, obviously, but will be on hand in case needed, and that does include Joseph Dweba. So they do have another option, but essentially you're looking at Marx and Bongi doing the heavy lifting for this Rugby World Cup cycle. I mean, you may see against Romania, maybe Duane Vermeulen starts a game, but they tend to manage the minutes between the two guys well. And remember, this World Cup, there tends to be a bit more gap between games, so there's kind of less pressure to play multiple games in a short space of time. Props, Kitshoff, Koch, Malherbe, Nyakane, and Nche. Good to see Ox is back after missing the Rugby Championship through injury. And yeah, I think you'd be pretty happy with your front row. Only 5 props. Some of the teams are taking 6, but they do have 2 props on standby in Steenkamp and Thomas du Toit. So I think you guys are pretty well fully loaded with the front row. Marx and Mbonambi are going to start, and then just take your pick of the props, basically. Locks, again, you're missing one of your big names. Diaka's chest issue that kept him out of that last game against Argentina still seems to be ongoing. They wouldn't elaborate as to what the deal is, because I guess it's a medical issue and that's none of our business, but it's serious enough to keep him out of Rugby World Cup squad. It must be pretty serious. So, Etzebeth, Kleyn, Orie, Snyman. Those are your kind of 4 specialist locks, and you've got a couple of loosies who can certainly fill in the second row if needs be. If there's one area of the South African squad that's pretty strong anyway, it's the second row. So the fact that Diaka's there is pretty bad, but the fact that you've still got Snyman, Etzebeth, you're all right. You're all right. You're not going to be sweating too much about that. Lucy's Munster, Du Toit, it's Pieter-Steph. Kolisi, who is captain, Fourie, Kwagga Smith, Van Staden, Vermeulen, and Wiese. So you guys have really locked and loaded on the loosies, compared to like the All Blacks have only really taken 5 loose forwards. But I guess with Munster and Du Toit, you've got guys who can cover the second row as well, and you've got Fourie who's kind of covering hooker, so that maybe skews the numbers a wee bit. There is both youth and age in the back row, because I mean, Duane Vermeulen is the oldest guy in the squad at 37, but then Van Staden and Wiese are your youngest forwards at 27. So one thing about the Springbok forward pack I would say is it is a bit older than some of the other squads we've seen. I think the English one was about 27 and a half. The All Blacks one I think was like 28 or 28 and a half. 31 is the average age for the Springboks forward pack. So that will be, I think, without a doubt, the oldest forward pack in the World Cup. I'm pretty sure you can put money on that, but don't quote me. I would just hazard a guess. The likes of Fourie at 36, Vermeulen at 37, Vincent Koch already 33, even Kitshoff's 31, Mostöv's 32. So you got a bunch of guys who, I mean, as forwards, they can still play well into their 30s, but that is just the forward pack for the Springboks. So Evan Roos and Jean-Luc Deprez are also kind of on standby in case they are needed. Jean-Luc is going to fill in the kind of lock loose forward slot if needs be. Diaka is still there despite his chest issue, and then Roos is there as well as another loosie, but you can't imagine he would be called upon anytime too soon, because there are a lot of loose forwards in that unit. Remembering Kolisi is also one guy who's coming back from injury, so he's not had a game in a bloody long time. But they did say in the press conference that at least Sia has been doing full-on training, whereas some of the other guys like Pollard and other names who are missing are kind of doing like part sessions. They're not doing what the other guys would do in the prep for a test match. So Sia seems to be there or thereabouts. Backs, you got 4 half-backs in Hendrickson, Reinach, Williams, and de Klerk, but they've essentially said that de Klerk is also there to cover 10 if needs be. He seems to be the second cab off the rank if there's a need for 10. So I'm going to also put a guess out there that this will probably be the only squad that takes 4 nines. I can't imagine anyone else does it, unless there's this bizarre situation like this where you've got, nines who can genuinely cover a couple of positions. So, good to see Hendricks back, because he's another guy who's missed out recent times. Reinach is one of the older backs at 33, but he still seems to have gas. Good to see Grant Williams is okay after kind of that big knock he suffered in that game against Argentina. But yeah, Handré Pollard's absence is just incredible. Apparently he's just not training at a full level yet, so he can't be named in the squad. They've not been tempted to kind of take him and hope that he gets better in time for some of the later games. Like, you notice the All Blacks with Brodie Retallick, he had a knock in his last game, came off early, clearly wasn't 100% because when they named the squad and they all had to get up onto the stage, he was meandering to get up. But, yeah, they've not been tempted to do that. So Pollard is in that kind of extended group of travelling players. He's not in the 33. So it's only really Marnie Libbok who's your specialist 10. I love Marnie Libbok. I reckon he's a great player. But I'd be more comfortable if Pollard was in the side. Even if it was just like, he's going to sit the first few games. But I guess they don't want to gamble on his ability to get himself back fit. So, yeah, Marnie Libbok is there. You've also got Damian Willems who can play a bit of 10. But going into World Cup, you don't really want a guy who can play a bit of 10 as your 10 in such a crucial position. So, Marnie Libbok's fitness is going to be really important. The good thing about Willems, though, is he can cover so many positions. He's kind of filling that Frans Stain role if they want to go with a 6-2 split. Midfield is De Allende, Esterhuizen, Creel. I mean, I guess Damian Willems fits into that slot as well. But no Lukhanyo Am. Goodness gracious me. Yeah, there's some big old names missing from this Bok lineup. Apparently, Am got a knee injury in that last game, so he's likewise not quite been named yet. I mean, admittedly, Jesse Creel, who a lot of people, including myself, have been a wee bit critical of in recent years, in the limited time he got, actually looked pretty solid. So maybe he's coming into good form at a good time. Esterhuizen has likewise been in good form, so it's pleasing to see him get a reward, because sometimes you feel like if they're kind of trimming down the numbers, maybe he's one of the guys that gets cut in favour of like De Allende and then the kind of versatile Willems are. But nah, De Allende and Esterhuizen are both there. They've said if Creel goes down, essentially Damien De Allende can fill in at 13, which we've seen him do. Usually it's if they're reshuffling the backline, he can shuffle across. But again, in a World Cup, do you want a guy shuffling or do you want a specialist? It's one of those things, isn't it? Yeah. They even said Willems could fill in a pinch, but filling in a pinch. Outside backs, Arendse, Colby, Mapimpi, Moody, and LaRue. I'm chuffed for Kane Moody. He's the youngest guy in the squad at 20. Mapimpi is alongside Reinach, the oldest backline player at 33. You got some pretty good outside backs. I think you'd be pretty happy with it. LaRue's going to start at fullback, and then you pick 2 wingers, basically. I would like to see Moody and either Arendse or Colby. I like the idea of the kind of big man, little man. I mean, Moody's in form, but it's a toss of a coin as to whether you take Colby or Arendse, because they're both in cracking form as well. So, yeah. Herschel Yankees is another one of the guys who is in the travelling lineup, but no space for Elton Yankees as a potential 10 cover. So, average age of 28 in the back, so the backs are a wee bit younger than the forwards, which is the case for most of the sides. But, yeah, man. Pollard, Diacha, that's kind of troubling. Now, interestingly, in the press conference announcing the squad, Jacques Nienaber did kind of hint at the fact that if someone, what did he say, like plays themselves into a position where they deselect themselves, then some of these guys could come in. Now, I know if you guys get injured, you can replace them. The replaced player can't come back into the squad. So if one of you guys gets a knee injury, like Nche at the last World Cup, once he's replaced by, I think it was Thomas du Toit, Nche can't come back in. Call me a wee bit cynical, but if Pollard or Lukhanyo Am or Diacha manage to find fitness later on in the tournament, and someone like a Jaden Hendrickse, when they've got 4 halfbacks, picked up an injury or for some reason had to go home and was replaced by Pollard or, Lekanyuam, I would not be shocked. Call me cynical, but yeah. If those guys can get back in fit, surely you would think you find a reason to get them in. But yeah, we'll kind of have to wait and see. Certainly injuries will happen. It's going to happen to all the sides. But yes, man, kind of concerning. But the backup players are there. Fixtures, Wales and New Zealand as the last two kind of prep games. Then straight into the deep end with Scotland, Romania, Ireland, and then Tonga. So it is a tough pool. And the Springboks are going to have to be... They're going to have to be good. They're going to have to be good. There's no real way to cruise at this Rugby World Cup, and especially when you're in the pool that South Africa's in. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, folks. You guys, let us know your thoughts. Can you see the likes of a Lekanyuam, Pollard, a Diaka, somebody else kind of coming into the squad late in the piece? Do you think they should have taken Elton as a bit of extra 10 cover? I know Elton Yankees gets as much grief as any player has in the history of rugby, but would you feel more comfortable having a 10 to cover, or would you be happy if the likes of a Faf de Klerk, a Cheslin Colby, or a Damien Willems had to step in at 10 if anything happens to Marnie Libok? But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts on the squad, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Later.